So, motorcycles, guys and gals, yep, I know, they are by no means the safest way to get around these days, and we all know why that is, don't we? And it's not because of us, it's because of drivers around us. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that statement. I've mentioned this before in a few videos where in the situation where there is a motorcycle crash, there are a lot of things that a rider could have done in that particular situation to avoid the crash. But that doesn't take anything away from the mistakes that drivers make. And because you are on two wheels, those mistakes can be ever more dangerous for you. So that's exactly what we're going to discuss in today's video, guys and gals. We're going to give you 5 of the most dangerous mistakes that drivers make every single day that you need to watch out for. So yeah, let's jump on. Let's go. It's funny, isn't it? Because part of the reason why motorcycles are portrayed as these very dangerous machines is actually because of the mistakes that other road users make. And yeah, there's no denying that on a motorcycle you are far more vulnerable. So there is that to consider as well. Which is why that we as motorcyclists, we have to be that much more aware than everyone else around us. If we want to kind of get away with these things scot-free, because even when something bad happens, more often than not, the more experience you have, the more likely that that scenario is just a close call rather than a full-blown crash. All right, so let's jump straight into today's video. God, this road's got so many hidden potholes. It's been raining loads this weekend. Look at that giant bloody pothole. Oh dear. So the very first thing that I see drivers doing an awful lot when you're on two wheels is they want to try stopping you from filtering. Now, okay, there's a very obvious solution or very obvious answer to that, and that is simply don't filter. But I'm sorry, but I don't agree with that. You, as a motorcyclist, you have the option to filter, and in more cases than not, it's actually safer to do so because you are in between the traffic rather than getting sandwiched between cars, so to speak. So filtering, in my opinion, is definitely worthwhile. So if you don't know how to filter, well, we've got some videos. God blimey, potholes everywhere, pot mines. We've got some videos that I will link up in the top corner for you to watch afterwards if you want to, around how to filter properly and what you need to kind of look out for when you're doing that. But drivers don't like it. Motorists, other road users, they do not like it when we filter. I know it's stupid, I don't quite understand, but you know, yes, of course, you know, there is that benefit that you're able to skip traffic, but people don't like it. People get very jealous, so they try stopping motorcyclists from filtering, which, by the way, is very, very dangerous, hence the title of this video. So yes, that's something that you really need to watch out for. If you do have a driver that is trying to stop you from filtering, well, try and find another way. All right, don't indulge them, right? Don't get into some kind of verbal confrontation with them, because it doesn't matter what you say. These kinds of people, their words will not get through their thick skulls. So, you know, don't even worry about it. Yeah, it's not worth your time. Just be patient, wait for another opportunity to filter, or find another way to filter past the vehicle in front of you. Talking of filtering, now technically speaking here in the UK, filtering is legal, but lane splitting is not. So I mean, filtering and lane splitting are kind of like the same thing, and people use the words interchangeably, the different terms interchangeably. But the way I understand lane splitting is that lane splitting is when you are filtering whilst traffic is moving. That is illegal here in the UK. You are only allowed to filter when traffic is stationary. But you know, a lot of us, we like to push the boat out a little bit, and if traffic is moving a little bit, then well, we'll go ahead and filter anyway. But the issue with that is you will find drivers switching lanes very, very suddenly. more often than not without looking and without indicating. Oh man, it's happened so many times, and when me and the wifey were doing our reaction videos as well, we saw it all the time, man, where there were riders that were lane splitting and yeah, just drivers moved in between lanes without looking, without indicating, without giving any signal whatsoever, and yeah, it ends up being a very, very bad day for the rider. So I encourage you to not lane split, but if you have to do it or you want to do it, just really, really keep an eye out for drivers that, because they'll literally be like here, right next to you, and they'll try swinging in to the tiniest of spaces in between cars on multi-lane highways. So yeah, you will see that an awful lot, and it's just one of those things again that, man, pardon the pun, but it really grinds my gears. Because people clearly aren't looking in their mirrors. Yeah, if you check your mirror before you do anything, well, guess what? You'll see something coming before you make that maneuver. That's the whole point of the damn mirrors. People don't use it. People don't use their friggin' indicators, for God's sake. I'm sorry, it's far more inconvenient to use a switch like this to indicate than it is using a bloody stick on the side of your steering wheel, and people still can't be bothered to do it. Anyway, moving on. We all know that very famous Think Bike advert. Now this is an advert that came out, bloody hell, God, probably over a decade ago now. But that kind of stuff still happens to this day. Drivers at junctions, either pulling out of junctions or pulling into junctions, they do not see motorcyclists. Just simply don't see them. So the whole thing about looking once, looking twice, looking 3 times, people don't do it. And it's because, just because motorcycles are small, they look further away than they actually are. You know, I mean, let's take speeding out of the equation. Most riders, yes, they speed, okay, whatever, you can't argue with that. But it doesn't matter. If you are looking well enough and you are concentrating, you won't pull out in front of a motorcyclist. But it happens all the time, whether you are doing the speed limit or not. This has happened to me, where I have been approaching an area where the traffic approaching me is supposed to give way to me, and they don't, because they think I'm so far away. They think they have enough time to get around, and they don't. It's the same thing when pulling out of junctions. Drivers will do it all the time. They will look and they'll think you're miles away, so they'll pull out in front of you, and then all of a sudden you've crashed into them because they haven't seen you. They haven't been concentrating. They haven't looked properly in your direction. So what the hell do you do in that situation? Simply this. Be prepared for a driver that's come up to a junction, because you can see them. Yeah, if you are concentrating, you will see that they've approached the junction. Just be aware that they could pull out in front of you. So if you see a junction, and you see it, especially when you see a car approaching that junction, definitely go ahead and slow down, just take it easy, get past the junction, and then carry on with what you were doing. All right, and this happens both ways. Okay, let's say for example there's a car that is looking to turn into a junction. You see that, you slow down, slow right down, and just make sure that if that car decides to get out in front of you because they haven't friggin' looked properly, that you have enough braking distance, you have enough time to stop. Because let's be honest here, guys and girls, in most cases you are not going to have the time to avoid this obstacle that's now in your way. The only thing you can do is try your absolute hardest to stop. Alright, so that was point number 3. Let's see here. What else? Because there's so many. And definitely let me know down in the comment section below if there's any that I missed, because I'm sorry, but drivers are stupid. They'll make stupid mistakes all the friggin' time. Alright, anyway. Next one, drivers cutting you up on roundabouts. Now, roundabouts are a thing that you see more in Europe than pretty much anywhere else in the world. But because, again, you're on a motorcycle, a lot of the time drivers, they won't even bother checking their mirrors, and then they will cut you up because they haven't even seen you. They haven't even seen you on a roundabout. This even happened to my wife, where, man, because she's quite a, what's the word, a defensive driver and rider. I'm trying to get her out of that, but basically because she was in the wrong part of the lane that she was in, the driver couldn't see her in their mirror. So then what happened is they just move lanes because they think there's a gap there when actually there isn't. A motorcyclist is in that gap, but they don't know, and so they end up cutting you up. Yeah, shit like that happens far too often. That is a very nice car. Is that an F40? Wow. I have no idea. It's a Ferrari of some kind, but very, very nice. But yeah, unfortunately, getting cut up on roundabouts here in the UK, especially because we have so many stupid roundabout designs these days that people approach a roundabout and they've got no idea which lane they're supposed to be in when they get to a roundabout. They missed all the signs, they've missed the bloody road markings on the floor, and so they they don't know what the hell they're doing, and then they just end up just switching lanes suddenly on roundabouts and things like that. Yeah, freaking nightmare. But that's a lovely view though, isn't it? I'm glad that there's a bit of a break in the clouds now as well. So I kind of mentioned my wife here because she is a very, very defensive road user. Well, this is another dangerous thing that, again, unfortunately has happened to my wife as well, and that is drivers overtaking you at really stupid points in the road. This applies more to riders that are on 125cc motorcycles and under, the smaller bikes. So drivers are naff. They're so stupid. So imagine, well, we're approaching a road now, and I'll kind of explain what I mean. But drivers will take liberties. You give them an inch, they will take a mile, no matter how freaking dangerous it might be. So the wifey at some point was riding in lane 1 like this. Now, I never ever recommend you ride in lane 1. Always ride in at least lane 2 or even lane 3. Because if you ride in lane 1 and the driver behind you is very, very impatient or very stupid, they'll try overtaking you on a bend like this, on a totally blind bend. They will do that if you're not going as fast as they want you to. So always ride in at least lane 2 or lane 3. Now you will find some people that will say actually you need to be over in lane 1 to look around a bend to see far down the bend. No. Always stick to lane 3. On the road, always stick to lane 3, because then any drivers that are behind you, they have less incentive to try and overtake you on stupid points of the road. Happens, again, far too often. I see it far too often. And if you ride in the correct lane positioning on the road, things like that will probably still happen. You'll still get drivers that will try and take liberties wherever they can on stupid points on the road. They'll do it anyway. But at least you will make them think twice before doing it. Yeah? Just, again, one of those things that just happens far too often, and oh man, it's a real kick in the teeth, because this person that's doing this stupid thing, they're not just putting you in danger, they're putting themselves in danger, they're putting someone unknowing on the other side of the road on approach in danger as well. Yeah, absolutely friggin' ridiculous. The last point that we've got here for today's video, this is one of those things that is unfortunately super common. And you know how I was saying earlier how, you know, drivers at junctions, they don't look properly when they are trying to get out of the junction, or maybe they're trying to turn into a junction, they don't look properly and they cut in front of you, you know. Drivers can't even see what's friggin' in front of them. Being rear-ended on a motorcycle is so friggin' common that it encourages riders to do things like filtering, like lane splitting, because they feel like it's safer to do that than actually sitting behind a car like you normally would, right? It is just so utterly ridiculous how, you know, you could just be sitting there at a traffic light waiting to go, someone just friggin' rear ends you out of nowhere. In that situation, there's not a lot you can do. There's a few things you can do prior to stopping, like again, if you're sticking to lane 3, try and stick to lane 3, because then at least they won't sandwich you in between you and the car in front. At least they'll nudge you over, you know, they'll knock you off the bike rather than totally sandwiching you. Which again, unfortunately, us riders, again, we have to be so hyper aware of what's going on that it just ends up being, you're just juggling, man. You're juggling so many things. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And the thing is, like, yes, okay, there are things that riders can do, but this video is actually more aimed towards drivers to be more aware of motorcyclists, because oh man, that's why I like riding the ZZR around, just because I have more road presence, you know. I'm a bigger thing for people to spot. Again, something else that riders have to think about. We shouldn't have to think about these things, but unfortunately the truth is that drivers make mistakes, drivers don't see us, and this happens all the friggin' time. And yeah, we end up getting the worst end of the deal, because we end up having our bikes written off, we end up with broken limbs and things like that, and the driver ends up with a dent in their car. Yeah. Great, isn't it? But anyway, guys and gals, like I mentioned earlier, definitely let me know down in the comments what common things you see every day whilst you're out and about riding. There is probably a million things. I could go on all day about things that drivers do, driver errors, driver mistakes that can end up just being an absolute nightmare for us riders. So yeah, definitely drop your experiences down in the comment section below, and hopefully we can make the world a bit more aware of motorcyclists, and just make road users more aware in general. Yeah, I think that's, the more aware we are as people and in our environment, I think the better and safer we will all be as a result. But yeah, thank you ever so much for watching this video. Thank you for joining me on today's ride all the way to the end. Definitely check out the video that we've got coming up on our end screen. Thanks again. Leave a like, hit subscribe, drop a comment down below, and we will catch you all in the next video. Have a good one.
Shine.